Good evening. Our top stories tonight. The last difference maker left on the free agent market in terms of pass catchers has signed. DJ Chark is now a Carolina Panther. How does he stack up compared to Adam Thielen? Who is the wide receiver one? And what's left out there? Because at this point, unless you're willing to trade for DeAndre Hopkins, you are left to sign the likes of Nelson Aguilar if you're the Baltimore Ravens and other kind of dusty players. There are no impact playmakers left at the wide receiver position. Tight end, debatable. Running back, we've got some veterans, but the free agent market has dried right up. All that and much, much more on Player Profiler today. Happy to have everyone back on the show tonight. I know I am doing a pre-recording once again. Work has been crazy, but these are all still being filmed with the latest breaking news. We are not missing a beat. And at this point, there's nothing left that we're waiting for in terms of free agency. Not really anyways, because there's some trades. There are some breaking trades that are going to happen. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be moved at some point. Aaron Rodgers going to be moved at some point. But outside of that, what's left? Who is left to sign? Because DJ Chark, he's gone. We're looking at running backs. There are a couple of running backs that could ruin some backfields. Leonard Fournette. Ezekiel Elliott doesn't sound like he's actually going to ruin any backfields. Kareem Hunt, Jerick McKinnon. The best pass catcher left is Irv Smith Jr., the tight end from the Minnesota Vikings. That's it. DJ Chark was the last difference maker on the market when it comes to pass catchers. DJ Chark, he's not a true alpha either. He's not. He is a 1B type wide receiver. That's why it worked with the Detroit Lions when he was healthy, because Amon-Ra St. Brown is that alpha. DJ Chark, he's a 1B. He's a fake alpha. I don't want to call him a beta because he's absolutely not. But DJ Chark, he is a stretch X that doesn't play like a full X. He makes some acrobatic catches. He contorts his body in some crazy ways, but DJ Chark isn't the contested catch guy, isn't the 150 plus target guy. That's just not who he is. He had that dominant season with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I love DJ Chark. None of this is a put down on DJ Chark. He is great. He is going to make a difference for the Carolina Panthers offense, but he's not an alpha in fantasy. He's not going to be the wide receiver one for the Panthers in terms of fantasy, especially considering their quarterback. Because the Panthers, right now, they have Andy Dalton, and maybe he does start week one. Maybe the rookie they take, if it's Anthony Richardson, if it's Will Levis, who has his pro day today, maybe they start Andy Dalton week one. Or if not, they start Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. But no matter what, they're going to have a check down Charlie or a check down Andy in a lot of cases. Andy Dalton, he's not a gunslinger. He's going to check it down. He did enough with Chris Olave, but that's just not his game. He would prefer to dink and dunk up and down the field, protect that football. CJ Stroud, if he is the choice for the Carolina Panthers, he's going to need a safety blanket. Hayden Hurst was that until they signed Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen going to be that wide receiver one, that safety blanket for whoever it is, whether it's CJ Stroud, whether it's Bryce Young, whether it's Andy Dalton. Adam Thielen is going to be the target leader of the Carolina Panthers. He is that slot player. He is that safety blanket, as I've said repeatedly. He is that safety valve. Adam Thielen is the emotional support blanket. For CJ Stroud, he's going to be, he's no Jackson Smith and Jigba, but he's going to play that role. He's going to play the role of guy I can trust on all downs. Whereas DJ Chark, he's still going to be that best ball receiver. And I know we hate the term better in a best ball, but it's true. DJ Chark is a guy that you struggle to start consistently because he doesn't get enough targets. You have to pay attention to the matchups, and that's why we love him in DFS. But in redraft, it's tough. You got to really pay attention to who the cornerback he's facing is. That's why he's better in a best ball. And so I still like DJ Chark. This offense for the Carolina Panthers is improving. This is, as I said a couple weeks ago, this is the move they needed to make. The Panthers had to do this because otherwise they were entering the season with wide receiver 3, either Shi Smith or Laviska Shenault fighting it out. And that's unacceptable. There's still the draft. Panthers should add someone in the draft later, maybe, but they needed to make this move. DJ Chark, the last remaining difference maker, and the Panthers need difference makers. Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Terrace Marshall, Hayden Hurst. There's worse supporting casts out there. You've got 4 starting caliber players on your pass catching core. You can't say that for every NFL team. There are some guys that do not have starting caliber players. Look at the Atlanta Falcons. I guess if you count Jonnu Smith as their wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3, but otherwise they got Frank Darby starting, not an NFL starter. So the Panthers making quality moves. Now Laviska Shenault, gadget player. Frank Reich can have some fun with him in that Paris Campbell role. And Shi Smith, just that quality, solid 4th, 5th receiver that the Panthers have said they wanted him to be. So I love this move. Great decision by the Carolina Panthers. And Adam Thielen is the wide receiver 1. DJ Chark, the wide receiver 2. And unfortunately, the biggest loser here is Terrace Marshall, because he and DJ Chark, they do a lot of the same things. They are an outside receiver, though Terrace Marshall has been forced into the slot far too often. They're outside receivers. They're stretch X's. They're tall. They're lanky. They're both from LSU. So DJ Chark, Terrace Marshall, they do a lot of the same things. DJ Chark just does them better. So this ultimately hurts Terrace Marshall the most, but still a great real-life signing by the Carolina Panthers. But after that, there's nobody left. Like I said, Irv Smith is the top dog, the one difference maker at pass catcher left. Nelson Aguilar signs a 1-year, $3.5 million contract with the Baltimore Ravens, can be worth over $6 million, but that's who's left as pass catchers. You've got Julio Jones, you got T.Y. Hilton, you got Kenny Golladay, you got Marvin Jones, Jarvis Landry, Randall Cobb. These are all just veterans, crusty veterans that are hanging on for a couple last contracts. And then you've got the role players. You've got a couple stretch guys. Nelson Aguilar signed today. You still got Robbie Jones, who is a role player for an NFL team. Olamide Zaccheaus, role player. Marquise Goodwin, role player. But that's who we're left with. So if you're a team in the NFL and you're still weak at wide receiver, you've got 2 choices. Either we make a big trade, we go out, acquire DeAndre Hopkins, go out, acquire Jerry Jeudy, or we better get somebody in the draft. And this draft is weird this year because for fantasy football purposes, it's not great. There's not a lot of players that I love at wide receiver. But in terms of real life football, there's a lot of quality NFL players that are going to make differences. Guys like Andre Yasovich, he's going to matter in real life. He's a big, athletic guy. He can block. But in terms of fantasy football, I don't care. I don't want those guys that are going on day 3. Interesting draft, intriguing draft, and a lot of teams are going to have a lot of interesting decisions left. But if you're a fantasy football GM, this is also exciting because now you're kind of insulated until the draft. DJ Chark was the last domino to fall that could have hurt any fringe guys. Now I apologize to Nate Paulvote. He is very disappointed that Laviska Shenault kicked to wide receiver 4-5, gadget guy. But it's better that Laviska Shenault's the guy that gets hurt rather than someone else we like, rather than him going to the New York Giants and hurting Isaiah Hodgins. There's worse places that DJ Chark could have gone for our fantasy football love. I apologize to Nate, but this is good. It's just running back that's left. There's only difference makers at running back that could impact young guys' roles. Leonard Fournette is going to make a difference wherever he signs. He is going to be stealing some carries, going to ruin some hype. Ezekiel Elliott. Now, we think he's going to ruin some hype, but if he goes to the Cincinnati Bengals, he's just Samaje Perine 2.0. And if he goes to the New York Jets, he's just a backup to Breece Hall. And he's not going to the Philadelphia Eagles because the Philadelphia Eagles, as Nate correctly stated on last night's show, they don't want Ezekiel Elliott. This is a wish list for Zeke. This is not the teams he's negotiating with. This is Zeke saying, hey, these are the 3 teams I want to go to. No indication that these teams are interested in Zeke. It sounds like New York is out after Breece Hall. the Eagles publicly come out and say, no, we're not interested. We like our backfield. Probably drafting Bijan, but regardless, Zeke is left with the Cincinnati Bengals, and he doesn't hurt Joe Mixon that much. He's just Samaje Perine 2.0. So then we've got Kareem Hunt and we've got Jerick McKinnon, and those two guys, they'll make an impact where they go. They'll take some targets away. They will step in as satellite back pluses. Kareem Hunt can be the grinder back. He can be the satellite back. But that's it. Those are the players we're watching where they could negatively impact your favorite Dynasty Darlings fantasy stock. For me, Kenny Gainwell, that would suck if Zeke did go to the Philadelphia Eagles, that would suck because Kenny Gainwell, he would be out on some third downs because they would have Zeke playing in pass blocking role. But no, that's not going to happen. So we're going to keep an eye on that. We're going to keep you updated on all of the star players that we have left, though there's not really many. There are a couple linemen that are difference makers. How crazy is that? There are more young difference makers, more young upside guys at offensive line than at wide receiver, at tight end left. Because we've got a starting center in Connor McDermott, young New York Jets center. I'm surprised he hasn't signed yet. I'm also surprised at Dalton Risner, the left guard for many years for the Denver Broncos. Now, I know he's struggled in recent years, but the guy was a first-round pick. Was he first or did he go in the second? Now I'm blanking. But either way, first-round whispers for him at the very least. Out of Kansas State, right tackle. He started from day one and has done a pretty good job. So I'm surprised some team hasn't snapped up Dalton Risner. And Isaiah Wynn, former left tackle, then right tackle of the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick did him no favors by deciding, hey, I know you've been a left tackle your entire career, but we're going to switch you to the right side now just because we don't expect you to be back next year. So good luck, Isaiah Wynn. I'm just surprised former first-round talent hasn't been signed yet. Maybe these guys are asking too much money, but it's intriguing. But the difference makers, there's more difference makers on the offensive line because everyone else available. It's depth, it's role players, it's backups. At quarterback, Carson Wentz and Teddy Bridgewater are the top two quarterbacks left. Crazy. You're not really getting anything because Teddy Bridgewater, he's a question mark as your backup quarterback just because of his durability concerns. Carson Wentz, do you want that in the locker room? And then after that, you got Matt Ryan, who still hasn't retired yet. Mason Rudolph, Joe Flacco, Blaine Gabbert. It is rough out there. Quarterbacks have dried up. Running back, really drying up. The top 6 running backs left, and I broke them down to 2 categories. There's the grinder running backs like Latavius Murray, Kenyon Drake, and Mark Ingram. Latavius Murray is the closest thing to stealing touches from any running back that's left. And if Latavius Murray is siphoning touches from you, that's more of a you problem as a running back. And then we've got the satellite backs. We got J.D. McKissick, and we don't even know if J.D. McKissick is going to play this year. Suffered a neck injury, missed a bunch of time, waiting to hear if he can return to the NFL. And then we've got Rex Burkhead and Gio Bernard. That's who's left at running back. We went through the wide receivers. It is a bunch of crusty vets and some field stretchers. At tight end, it's a bunch of older blockers and Dan Arnold. We got Dan Arnold, who was benched for Evan Engram, but he's still a fine receiving tight end. He's a back end starter. He can play that role. And then you got Drew Sample, the former Cincinnati Bengals second round pick who they drafted above DK Metcalf. Still can't believe they did that, but those are the young guys left at tight end. Everyone else is Mercedes Lewis, a pure blocker who wants to go to New York and play with Aaron Rodgers again. You got Cameron Brate, a blocker receiver type. He can do both. He's, I guess, a smaller guy, but veteran. And then Jeff Swaim is one of the top guys left on the market. So tight end, wide receiver, running back, it's dried up fast. All of the quality veterans left on the market, it's all linemen, and it's all linemen and defense. It's interesting how this goes because we as fantasy players, we love the value at not the value on the free agent market. We love the hype of free agency and all of the changes and all of the moves and all of this guy got helped, this guy got hurt. But really, where the value comes in free agency is later with these veterans Because you look at the offensive lineman left available, Roger Saffold, Buffalo Bills starter, Tennessee Titans starter, paved the way for Derrick Henry. Now he's getting older, but Roger Saffold, perfect 1-year mercenary contract. Same with Jason Peters, who filled in at left tackle, at left guard for the Dallas Cowboys. These are the kind of guys that get you through to a Super Bowl run. They can do that for you. I expect Jason Peters to be back with the Cowboys, but maybe someone else picks him up at 40 plus years old playing left tackle. There's also Taylor Lewan, who, granted, he's suffered a lot of injuries for the past couple of years for the Tennessee Titans, but it's rare you can get a starting caliber left tackle this late in free agency. Same with Donovan Smith, the left tackle of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Same with George Fant, the left/right tackle of the New York Jets. Quality depth pizzas still available for all these teams to add up on to solidify weaknesses. And that could end up helping a team like the Cincinnati Bengals, who Jonah Williams, they move him from left tackle to right tackle. He demands a trade. They could say, okay, Jonah, see you later. We'll just go out there and sign Jason Peters, see if he can play right tackle for us. We'll sign George Fant, who is a right tackle. Guards, you got Matt Filer there. You got Ben Jones, the center of the Tennessee Titans. Now, he still could retire. He suffered a lot of injuries recently, but just solidifying moves, guys that will step in day one starters for you, available this late in free agency. Same at defensive tackle, including Calais Campbell. The fact that Calais Campbell was cut by the Baltimore Ravens, that was an absolute mistake. I can't believe that the Baltimore Ravens decided, hey, I know we're going through some leadership issues. We got a bunch of stuff going on. I know you're out there, Calais Campbell, trying and advocating for Lamar Jackson to come back, but nah, see you later. We're going in a different direction. No, we don't really have a whole lot of leadership left to replace you, but Roquan Smith, he can do it. He's a linebacker, but defensive line, no, we don't have a lot there, but it's fine. We don't need you. Interesting. And the Seahawks, they've sent a bunch of linemen to free agency, cutting Poona Ford, cutting Shelby Harris, cutting Quinton Jefferson, cutting Al Woods, but they also made a big impact in free agency, signing defensive linemen to replace those guys. But still, bunch of starting to rotational pieces. Matt Ioannidis from the Carolina Panthers, Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph, who helped the Philadelphia Eagles on their Super Bowl run. Akeem Hicks, who was supposed to help the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fill in for Ndamukong Suh. Now, he missed a lot of the season, but he's still got the juice. Tyson Alualu, still a solid nose tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Will Golston, just a decent rotational defensive lineman for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Same with Jordan Phillips, D-tackle for the Buffalo Bills. Just all of these 30-plus-year-old defensive tackles, and I think a couple under 30, but all of these impact players still available for free agency. So I know it's not the DJ Charks, it's not the Jacoby Myers, it's not the Miles Sanders signings, but there are a lot of teams that are going to be getting a lot of value out there. A lot of teams that are going to be improving still throughout March, throughout April, throughout May, June, July, because we're going to be getting into the cuts. We'll be getting, after the draft, we'll be getting a whole bunch of new free agents, a bunch of guys that have been replaced. Teams don't have the money to pay them anymore, and they're gone. It's interesting how free agent cycle goes. We get all the big names up first, and then there's still big names out there, though, on defense. Bobby Wagner, still available. Jadeveon Clowney, Yannick Ngakoue, Bud Dupree, Leonard Floyd, Kyle Van Noy, who made a huge difference for the Los Angeles Chargers this year. Jason Pierre-Paul steps in for the Baltimore Ravens on day one and just says, hey, I know I didn't spend training camp with you. I know you're only calling me because you have no edge rushers left. Everyone's hurt. But yeah, I'll just step in and be a starting Sam linebacker for you. Hey, I might not rush the passer like I used to, but I can hold my own against the run. You don't have to worry about that. These are the kind of players available. Shaq Lawson for the Buffalo Bills, who was their 5th edge rusher to start the season. Von Miller tears his ACL, and now he's number 2. So many. Justin Houston, the sack leader for the Baltimore Ravens last year. Quality veterans on defense. And I don't know who's asking for too much, who's asking for what, Maybe Carlos Dunlap is taking his time after winning Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs. Do I want to retire? Do I want to go back to the Chiefs? Do I want to chase a ring elsewhere? But quality, starting caliber players. They're veterans. They're not sexy, but these are the meat and potatoes of your roster. This is where Super Bowls are won and lost, in the trenches here, with these guys, the Bobby Wagners of the world, deciding where they want to play for 2023. In the secondary, it's the same thing. Marcus Peters still available. Now, he's had some injury concerns, but Marcus Peters, when healthy, still quality, top-notch cornerback in the NFL. Ronald Darby, he's coming off the ACL tear, but for the Denver Broncos, he held it down opposite Patrick Surtain. Bryce Callahan, starting slot corner for the Los Angeles Chargers. Same with Troy Hill for the Los Angeles Rams. Just guys that you can pay to be a mercenary, walk in, nail down a starting role. Eli Apple is still available. Eli Apple, Cincinnati Bengals cornerback. I know he gets the hate. I know he's got probably a lot of enemies in the NFL, so there might be some locker room concerns, but Eli Apple really kept the Bengals in it. After they lost Chidobe Awuzie, Eli Apple and Cam Taylor-Britt, they stepped up. They don't make it to the AFC Championship if Eli Apple doesn't play as well as he does down the stretch. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's true. And that's safety. Adrian Amos, Packers safety, who signed a huge contract last time he was on the open market, came over from the Chicago Bears. I'm surprised he hasn't signed yet, but maybe he's, again, taking that mercenary contract. And I can't blame any of these guys. I can't blame them for sitting around and waiting. Hey, I know how the NFL works. I'm not going to sign now. I'm going to wait till after the draft. I don't need to make a decision now. I can see what teams draft what guys. I can know if I'm being replaced and if I'm going to be cut. Nah, I control my own destiny. The draft doesn't control my destiny when you bring in someone to replace me. I'm going to wait it out. Maybe I have to wait it out until during the season, like Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph did for the Philadelphia Eagles. But you know what? I'm pretty sure they'd say it was worth it to make it to a Super Bowl by sitting out. Free agency, it's dying. It's waning. We're not going to have any of the big splash signings until we hear about Irv Smith, and that'll be it. Nope. Phil Hoskins. The Kansas City Chiefs are re-signing defensive tackle Phil Hoskins. Those are the kind of moves that are going to be left. It's left to the trades, Irv Smith, and the draft. And speaking of the draft, we've got some news. We've got some news that Bryce Young, we know he met with the Raiders. We know he met with the Panthers. We know he met with the Seahawks. Teams impressed with Bryce Young's throwing. He did what he had to stay in that top 4 quarterback conversation, top 1, top 2, whatever. Mixed opinions on Bryce Young. I recently took Bryce Young in a mock draft with the rest of the Roto Underworld Player Profiler staff, but I got him at the 107, and I'm all right with that. Top 3 quarterbacks, they were all gone. Bijan's gone. Jackson Smith and Jigba gone. And Jahmyr Gibbs gone. So after that, it's a super flex league. I either can take Quentin Johnson or Jordan Addison or Zach Charbonnet. Those are the 3 left. Or I can take the value in quarterback at Superflex. I know Bryce Young. We're not in on Bryce Young. We think he's got a much lower ceiling than a lot of people do because of the size concerns, because of what he dealt with at Alabama. But quarterbacks are currency. And I'm telling you, Bryce Young's going to maintain value, at least after year 1. So if you're at the 107, I'm fine taking him. And I really wanted to get Trey Palmer in the 3rd round. There's no way Trey Palmer is going to be going in the 3rd round after the NFL draft. Trey Palmer, he's met with the New York Jets, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Denver Broncos, the Atlanta Falcons, the Los Angeles Rams. And Trey Palmer already made a top 30 visit to the Minnesota Vikings. And that one excites me. Trey Palmer with the Minnesota Vikings, he can play inside, he can play outside, because Justin Jefferson, he can play outside, he can play in the slot. We also have KJ Osborne. He can play outside. He can play in the slot. And then Trey Palmer, Nebraska superstar, fastest player at the wide receiver position in the draft. We've got him. He can play outside. He can play in the slot. He can just take the top off. Vikings, if they land Trey Palmer, just a speedster, another burner, make life easier for Justin Jefferson. Whoo! Watch out, NFL. The Minnesota Vikings, while they were one of the best offenses in the NFL last year, they could get even better if they replace Adam Thielen with Trey Palmer. But whoever gets Trey Palmer is lucky. Can't believe I missed out on him in the second round or in the third round, but he's not going to be going there after the NFL draft. We also have an update on Dalton Kincaid, the tight end out of Utah. He has the back injury. We knew that he wasn't going to work out. We knew we weren't going to get any testing numbers. Cody and I have been talking about this for weeks where, hey, we're never going to get testing numbers for Dalton Kincaid. Let's scrub the internet, see if we can find some high school metrics, or at the very least, we'll get some ratings for him to fill out those bar graphs that we have on PlayerProfiler.com. Dalton Kincaid, though, NFL loves him. Many believe that Dalton Kincaid's going to be a top 20 pick. I don't agree with it. Cody doesn't agree with it, but we got to listen to what NFL teams are saying. We also hear, though, from Cody, and I tend to believe Cody a little bit more on this, that NFL teams are getting sick of how long it takes round one tight ends to develop. Year after year, all these guys, it takes time. It's a difficult, grueling position to learn. So Dalton Kincaid, while we're getting a lot of hype that he could be a top 20 pick, I won't be surprised to see no tight ends taken in the top round, or at least falling to the late 20s, 30s. It's a different NFL. Tight end just doesn't make the difference. And that there are people that are saying, well, what about Darnell Washington? He's a freak. You can draft a guy like that in the first round. You're still going to be waiting quite some time for that to all work out. Finally, we have an update from Cody Carpentier. This is following Bryce Young's pro day. Could the Houston Texans, because they've got to be pretty conflicted right now, right? They need a quarterback. If they don't get a quarterback now, if they don't get a quarterback soon, they're going to be in hell. They're going to be in purgatory. They are going to have another dumpster fire year. But at the same time, DeMeco Ryans' defense thrives with an edge rusher, with a dominant edge rusher, a Nick Bosa type. So, what if the Houston Texans take that 12th overall pick and move up to the 3rd overall pick with the Arizona Cardinals? They have 2 future firsts next year. They have so much draft capital going forward thanks to the Sean Watson trade. Why not, if you're the Houston Texans, see what it'll cost you to trade up. You can draft Bryce Young at 2, get the quarterback that you want, and then reunite him with his best friend, the guy he came to Alabama with, and take Will Anderson with the 103. Then if you're the Houston Texans, you've gone all in on Alabama, and you get your franchise building blocks.